let's kind of do, I guess, a quick recap and just a market update for today. Crazy, crazy stuff. I think personally, the easiest way I could say my interpretation of this is that the dollar needed to come up here before it failed and it got sold down too quickly. But a lot of this, I believe, also had to do with the Bank of Japan. Um, so we'll kind of see with something like that. This throws a wrench in what I wanted to see for it to go down even more. We'll have to see what happens. I do think we could possibly break through this 103.6 level on our way up. We'll see. I'm not super expecting it. But when we do get stuff like this, we get, an extra low over here, and that gives us the chance that it can come all the way down. I mean, really, it can come all the way down to here. But even reasonably to push back up, doing anything here and then coming down to here is pretty decent to try to push back up. So it gives it a chance, a second kind of chance to really do something here. So it's definitely pretty wild. It's still a fairly strong candle where it is. We haven't started under, so it'll be interesting to see if we start in this 102.326. But really, a lot of this was just around the 7 to 9 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock Eastern yesterday, and that really just translating in to 7 to 9 o'clock here. And we can look at this on the 2 hour. Let's open this up. And we could say, okay, we could see this on the 2 hour. We come up here. We couldn't break through. Okay, so I see how we kind of break down. Yeah, I get it from that perspective. It does make sense. But in the same breath, we are looking at this starting very nicely here and then pushing up off of this and then just getting rejected. So a way higher time frame the day is nice. We look at something like the 4 hour around this time. We've started up here, which is fairly high, but we get no real support what's here here whatsoever. Just really kind of get pushed down. And so I don't really want to. I'm not going to look at this and say has any effect on anything. I mean, truly, most of it seemed like it's just the Bank of Japan, and I imagine it's just the fact that they're going to keep doing their quantitative easing forever. Um, I don't fully understand. I mean, I do understand, but I don't really understand. Like, if you want the yields to go down, the only way that the yields are realistically going to go down is if people aren't buying bonds. I'm sorry, if people are buying bonds, right? And to get other people to buy bonds, yields will go up so that they're more attractive. People actually want to hold them. So we just went from almost being at what, point 0.6 when they said they were going to keep it in the range of, I think it was supposed to be, honestly, I think it was plus or minus. So anywhere from negative 0.5% yield to a positive 0.5% yield. So we pretty much, this is our range. We went all the way to almost to zero point 0.6, just about. And then I guess they said something, I believe, with their they're just going to keep buying bonds. So I don't understand. I think they already own 50 some odd percent, low 50x% of their bonds. So I'm not really sure at what pace they're increasing this by. So this is pretty wild to go from almost point 0.6 out of the bound that they said they were going to keep it in, and now it's all the way here at 0.48, hitting a low of 0.36. So this will be pretty interesting to see, kind of in that sense, where things take off. But I really think this was, I mean, it seemed like obvious in a sense that had to be the impetus for a lot of it. But to me, a lot of it was the Japanese yen. We can also just see if we look at this, it's like a whole bunch of different currencies. So if we just look around that same time up here, so and this is just like a whole bunch of different currencies, like it's like the U.S. dollar, the yen, the British pound, the euro, the yen. It's just kind of all of them together to because I like to see one against it, but I also like to see how like other things are doing against it, like all of them kind of combined together like that. So it's a little weird, but I just like to know, like, if I'm looking at the dollar moving to this, is it going to be the same? And like you can see the movements aren't the same because this is only one piece of data compared to the yen. So I like this as a comparison sometimes to see like, okay, might this just be something with the dollar, or are there other things also impacting this as well? Um, so anyway, that's kind of that. I think this has a decent chance to push up from where it is. It could just range here for a little bit more. This really throws a wrench. I think if the Japanese, yeah, I mean, I'll say two things. So I think if the Japanese yen itself if the Bank of Japan's economic status was good, this wouldn't have happened. But that's such a fundamental issue that doesn't really, in my opinion, have much to do with charts whatsoever at all. So it's kind of hard to say in a world where that didn't exist, because that's been the world of Japan for a while, and it's been a long time coming. So it just kind of is what it is. To me, there's like a big wrench thrown and stuff. I think we can move up from here. I think we can actually even push up past here, possibly. We'll have to see when it gets to this place. I still would expect more or less for this to, at the current time, I'd still expect it to get knocked back down. But people fleeing out of the yen, not wanting to be in that could be another resurgence for the dollar. It's really weird because, as I've been saying, the dollar, if this was going on and somehow the dollar hit down here, to me, all hell would be broke loose or would break loose, and I think the market's really good could get wrecked. I just think still that we're in this in between. It's not like, oh, things are necessarily just going to go down. Um, in a sense, we did this, and I think this distribution, whatever, I guess post its distribution, but this buildup right here makes this a lot more difficult. If we do something like this here and then come back down again, it really could put this spot in jeopardy and cause, possibly, who knows what's going to happen by then. We'll see how long it takes to get down, but it could um, cause it to fall through, essentially, for the dollar, and that could be something bullish for stocks. That would be like the best case scenario I could see for it. Um, the quicker the dollar drops, I think the worse it is for stocks overall. I think this is still a strong spot that can easily break through this area and keep pushing back up. We could also push up through here. I think it's a lot worse in a sense, and I don't really want to take too much out of this day, but I do think it's a lot worse if it doesn't just drop. Like, long story short, like just drop, right? Everything is down here. If we just look at these two weighted areas right here, it makes a lot more sense when we look at it from this perspective. And we can even just hide this. Like, this just makes a lot of sense. Like, why are we screwing around up here, getting caught up here, when we could just drop all the way down here? For like, if I was a super bull, I would want it to stay up here as long as possible, because it seems less likely that it's just going to push up. The thing I would hate is for it to come back down to this area, especially after pushing down so quickly. But it is what it is. And you see why 98, it is under the week time frame. We would drop under there. It would have to start a week under there to be a little sketchier, in my opinion. But we can still see that it's an incredibly strong level. This is what I'm saying. Like, if we come down to somewhere around here, it's a incredibly strong level, kind of for what it is. And I wouldn't be surprised if, like, we could do something like, I'm too lazy to do it. But if we did like a fib from somewhere, I'd probably do it from like somewhere here. I can just probably do it. I don't know. It might not show anything. It's kind of makeshift here. I'll do this and then I'll pause real quick. I don't want to waste a lot of time on this. It's not that important, really. So we'll see. So I did decide. I looked at this. I did kind of decide to take it from the top here. I do like this top. I think it's fine looking at it. Um, I don't think I'm going to see anything because it's too small. Yeah, I'm not going to see anything anyway, just because it's too large of a range of data to be able to pick anything up off of here. So it's not really that important for it really whatsoever at all. I don't want to use something here because I'm thinking like, okay, after we first rise up, let's think about, where we'd put a fib on it. I mean, even technically, I guess you could always do something like this also as well. Yeah, and that brings the 1618 right up around this. Yeah, and there you go. So if we were to, oh, jeez, come on, really? So if we're to look at this in this sense, from the base, I don't do it all the way from the bottom. I do weighted, and then we do it from right about here. I could even raise this up just a little bit. It depends if we do it from here or from here. I don't think it really matters. I could slightly raise it. I don't necessarily want to do that because it depends. Like, if you say you make it from here, then this is all like, what are you going to do? Oh, now it pushed up a little bit higher. Now you're just going to move the fib up. You see what I'm saying? Like, to me, that doesn't make nearly as much sense, because then you're not respecting the highs and you're not respecting, okay, this is maybe a failed breakout. It comes under. But even if we look at it from here, if it's slightly reduced, my target was that 98.3, but this still shows like a 98.1.5. Right? So it's not really that much farther off. So anyway, that's all I kind of wanted to show about it. It's nothing really too huge. and then we can kind of get onto some of the more important stuff. But maybe hopefully that shows some clarification. Ignore these things up there, not important. But hopefully this gives some a little bit more clarification to like the dollar and why I look at that as like a strong area down there. So let's see. So let's just kind of go into Bitcoin right now. I think this is super tragic for it. Like I said, I still think it was best to like kind of wait up here. Alts are a little bit sketchy when this stuff happens. I do think a lot of this was a Bank of Japan thing, but nothing has really changed from a technical perspective, right? This is the range right here. Got to get through here, and then this is the toughest range to get through out of all of them. It got stopped pretty much at the 21,600. What did it do? Slightly higher, 21,639. So $9 higher than the 21,630 target. You could say it got rejected there. I don't really want to say that because it didn't seem like it's a Bitcoin thing per se, but we can see how it makes sense that it got pushed down in this area, right? The market's open. If the market can just push up a little bit, this can just push up a little bit. There's a lot of resistance, so it makes sense when everything looks pretty bullish. This would probably be either here or it would be here trying to break out. And these are the places that shorters would stop it. So it's not surprising where it happened. Um, but why isn't something I'm going to necessarily try to attribute anything to. I don't think it's worth it. So we're gonna be under some things pretty quick. We do have the 2 hour here. I think one of the worst things would be two things. I think the quickest thing. I don't think the 12 is anywhere near. Yeah, I don't think even the 4. Right? Yeah. So I think kind of the worst thing of coming down here. It will. We'll see because I don't think anything's super certain because of the dollars was a lot of what I'm basing this off of, and it's just kind of wonky. But the first thing I would say that I don't like, let's just keep it straightforward. This is still the range. I think 18K bottom is where I would still treat the bottom of this range, and that 20,600 and or 20,850 would be the top of the range currently. And I would believe that we're in that range or the possibility of hitting the bottom of that range if we do two things. I think the biggest thing for me would have a day start under 20,847.9 or just say 20,850. I think that's the easiest way to look at it. If we look at some of these, we started above, we ended above, we switched over, we ended above, right? Switch over, so a start above. And if we look at a lot of these areas, I mean, even if we just look at it on the shorter time frame here, even looking at this, right, we can just clearly see this level is fairly important. It doesn't have to be perfect everywhere. We can see like this is a really good average of. It's just a really good line. That's all. It's just a good average of where a lot of the price action has been. It's a good level of support and resistance. So looking at that on the day time frame, it would be something I wouldn't like, and I could see that turning then into the 2 hour because that's the next thing we're gonna have. We should be under the 1 at this point. Yeah, we're under the 1 and everything else. So it kind of is what it is. One nice thing about this is, well, it's here. We do have some upwards targets if it does get a little bit of bullishness here. And one of the nice thing I'll show is that we did start the week above also as well. And so I do like that. So there is a potential that, maybe we can hold here and then continue pushing up. I do like that. Or maybe even push up later in the week, possibly. I don't want to go too much into that really. So really, I mean, you'd have to have these moving averages to 500 to 375. But what I'd be looking for right now for possible bearishness is falling under here. The nice thing is that they're also relatively close. So where it is about now, let's say it ends under, so I guess was it 7 o'clock? So about 20,450 with a bottom range of 19,700. That would be if we did end the day um under 20,850 more or less. And then like for this range, I think that would then be pretty easily possible if we do come into here. It's pretty straightforward. If you just have these on and you look at them through different time frames, you can kind of use it as that. As if you fall into this, you're kind of like within the ranges of it. So it can come down to the bottom, and it's pretty straightforward. It doesn't always work, but a lot of times it's pretty straightforward. We can kind of even see on the 30 hits, blah blah blah. Like I don't think it works well a lot of the times when you use it. I don't want to like go too much into it and try to say it's like something that's right all the time, but it works pretty well. And the 4 hour I think is off of Moldova. Yeah, the 4 hour brings us down. So if we fall under those, under that, like I think it was somewhere around here like 20,000, like 200 or whatever. I mean, the next place down is 18.65, which makes sense because in a couple 4 hour changes, it's going to be up here at 18.8. It would make sense that if we did come down, we would come down into this area. So that's kind of what I'm seeing there. I don't see anything crazy, crazy on the VIX. With the 4 hour, it looks pretty nice. But with, if I remember the week time frame, we do have this week time frame above us. So this could be nice. There's some things I don't like ultimately about it trying to push up here. One of the main ones is that we haven't touched this line, which we've touched. It's been very well acquainted with this line really ever since it's formed. One, two, three, four, five hits. And if we want to kind of take like 1, 2, somewhere around here, or we could say 1, 2, 3. This is what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hits there. So on a super push up, that is a little concerning. Maybe if we have another week that can start up here, I do think it'll be a little overextended depending on how far it pushes up. But we'll kind of have to see what happens. I do think the dollar is the impetus for most of this stuff. So that's just kind of what I'm seeing. So long story short, for Bitcoin, I don't want to see Bitcoin end the day time frame. I believe it's 7 Eastern. I don't want to see it end under this level. I think there's a pretty high chance it could push down. Now, the one nice thing is that it's already touched all the way down here at this 20,400. So there is a chance. So there's a lot of sketchy things though, and this is why I say if it starts under here, to me that's an SO, or that's like a lookout kind of thing. And then I certainly, if I was trading this and I really wanted to stay in, if it started under here, I would probably either just take some out. I wouldn't be in this situation, like I said already. Like I would be waiting to see what happens up here. But if I was, I would be SOS and maybe a stop loss somewhere around here. But I would probably, I think the safest thing I think would just be take some out and then wait. Like as we've seen so far, this is a very dangerous area. It's not an area that's easy to get through. I don't want to say dangerous as this is the reason why it came down, but it's just a dangerous area with a lot of resistance there. So I don't know if there's really too much else to look at. I was sleeping for some of the stuff today. It's kind of crazy. Mars at a nice place. We'll kind of see what happens. I think it started in a decent place though too. I don't want to look. I don't want to get into this too much. Like I feel that getting into some of these when a lot of this was currencies driving the price of these things down. Um, I feel like it could get a little what's the word? Like convoluted, I guess, or I don't want to look at something that might look like it lines up and go like, oh yeah, when that really isn't what it is. The only reason I like looking at these things sometimes is to see, okay, there was overbearing weight on this. There was overbearing pressure on this in one direction or the other. Is there anything that we could have seen to maybe avoid that? One thing I was interested in, I guess, in a sense, let's check out NVIDIA really quick. This actually looks like it has some hope if it can hold. So, like I said yesterday, I didn't think anything here was like the buy point. So, if I was to get in with NVIDIA today, I don't know if I would have, but if I was, I would have taken a position here. I don't know when it hit there though. Um, was it the beginning of the day? Wait, what? Let me pause this for a second. Look, okay. I drew it like pretty long. Okay, yeah. So I would have gotten into a position somewhere around here. Yeah, and yeah, God, it's so ugly though. I don't know if I would have though. Like if I wasn't looking at anything else, I would have. Like everything looks so sketchy right now. I know things are a little toppy, but hmm. I don't want to get into it too much. Like I said, at the end of the day, like for another super bullish push up, what I want to see is I really want to see the dollar come up to here. Ever since we saw this day start on the dollar index, I really want to see it come up here, and then as we fall down, possibly through something like this area right here, I would like to be in a position and then get in something for the movement down here. I personally think that would be the best. That's what I would like to see. Otherwise, I still think we want to try to move up here. So it is kind of what it is. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. I hope you didn't lose money today. It was great.